Okay. Yes, okay, it's working. How did you do today? Were you all in church? You were not. You were? You guys were, and you were. Rebecca felt he was fast. Did you think he was fast?
I think it's depends times, because if you understand very well, it doesn't matter.
Right, okay. By the way, come curve this way. Come curve this way. Today I thought, today for me was very moving, very good for my heart today. I felt a little like you two, I felt a little like crying. So I will do my best. So, he started, move this way so that she's not behind the camera. You're good, you're okay. So today he started with a reminder. So God made the garden, God made everything, people, everything was good. Then people sinned and things went bad. And then the Jewish people, the Israelites, were slaves. We all know slaves. You know slaves? Yeah. For 480 years. A very, very, very long time. That's all they knew. And so then God set them free from being a slave. And then what happened was, at that time, he said to the people, "You will be my people. I will use you to bring love to the world and grace to the world. I will use you to do that." But they were in the desert for a while. Do we know desert? Everybody's good at desert? They were in the desert and they started to struggle, to have a hard time trusting God, because it was very difficult in the desert. So what is God doing? So they started to worry, and even after all that God had done, they started to wonder, can God take care of us? I don't know if he can. It'll be quiet soon.
No, that's okay.
Okay. They just sing really loud first. And he made a really interesting point. They said, you know what? This is too hard. I want to go back to Egypt and be a slave again. I don't like this. Can you imagine?
Because they don't know.
They don't know what to do. They don't know how to live free with God. I remember I knew someone who went to jail, and on their first day out, I took them to go get groceries. And this person was very emotional and a lot of crying because they hadn't been out in so long. That seeing people and being in it was all very overwhelming. They didn't remember this anymore. So that makes me think of this. They've been slaves, that's their whole life. Now what? So they wanted to go back. And then he talks about they went to a mountain, and at that mountain, God said, hey guys, I want you to listen, I want you to obey, and follow me. Like, let's do this together. And they said, yep, we will do it. We will obey. And so what he did was, so Moses went up the mountain and he got the 10 commandments. And what Jay said is, they are living free with God. They're living free with God. But now, he's adding rules and laws. He used the word paradox. Did you hear the word paradox?
I think it's similar to Spanish.
Is it?
But I don't know the meaning either in Spanish.
It's kind of like,
Sorry, I don't know. My ignorance.
it's kind of when two things don't go together. Like how? How are you free, but you also have laws? Is it the same word in Spanish?
Yes.
Yeah?
What is
got it?
what is a synonym for this word?
Paradox.
Paradoja.
Paradox.
Just go with the Spanish.
Spanish.
Paradox.
No.
Similar?
Paradox is a story.
Ah, sorry. No, don't worry.
I can't think of what it would be. I'll get back to you with the paradox.
Okay, that's okay.
And so the question was, hold on a second, hold on. They need laws to live freely? How does that work? And he talked about how nowadays we love to hate rules. We love to hate laws. And I don't care whether you were vaccinated or not, but in COVID was a very big picture of my rights. You can't tell me what to do. It's my right. Nobody wanted to think of other people. They just wanted to do what they wanted. Make sense? We don't like being told what to do. And the thing that he pointed out was that this is good and beautiful. And did you understand the guitar thing? Did you understand the guitar lesson?
Yeah.
Okay, so he put on a guitar, Jake, and then Toby came up with another guitar. And he said, think about, like, everything has laws, and so there are laws of music. And I know I took music for years. There are ways to play notes. There are ways to hold the notes, this, that, how to use your fingers, da-da-da-da-da-da. And Jay said, if we don't listen, or if we didn't have laws in music, it would sound like this. And he hit his guitar, it was terrible. He does not know how to play. Yeah, exactly. It hurt your ears. It was like, ah. And then he said, but when we have laws in music and we obey them, it sounds like this. So then Toby started playing, and it was beautiful. And you just wanted him to keep going because it was so good. And so his lesson was, there are laws in music, and with those, Toby played freely. He played as he wanted while using the laws of music. Make sense? And so he said those laws of music are for your good, for your protection. If not, your ears hurt and you want to run. It was so loud. Wait till you hear it. You want to run. That's what you want to do. So the laws are for your good. Can you imagine if the band got up on Sunday and everybody played what they want? It would be a disaster. And then we couldn't worship God because this is a disaster. It helps everybody to have these laws. Make sense? So, he said, if you obey, the music is beautiful. Oh yeah. Do you guys know the word legalistic? Hang on. I'll put that up here now. Legalistic means you are all about rules. That's all you care about. So in the Bible days, there were the Pharisees. And the Pharisees only cared about those 613 laws. Remember we said last week, 6? That's all they cared about. It wasn't about loving. It wasn't about helping or caring. You gotta stick to the rules. That is legalistic. And we can be legalistic today, you know? I'm trying to think of a good example. But we have ways that we think Christians should live. Not necessarily from the Bible, we just think them. And we hold to them, and we won't do anything different, even if God is calling us to. Make sense? And so if the band got on stage and they played awesome music, abided by the laws, we wouldn't say, Toby, you guys, stop being so free. We want you, like, it would be crazy. Hold on, how did he word it? Because he said it. You know, if obey, you want to say, yeah, you don't want to say, stop your legalistic ways. Stop sticking to the rules you've made up by yourself. You would never get mad at a musician for obeying the laws of music. You're happy they are obeying the laws of music. Same with a Christian. If you follow the laws of God, it's a good thing. It's not legalistic. There are other things that are legalistic, but this is a way to live a beautiful life with God. It's a beautiful way to have music. Make sense? And skip past. Okay, so he spoke about the one command today, which was no other gods before me. So this is the command we talked about today, okay? And he said you should have no other gods. And he wanted to be clear about something. It's kind of the same as this. These 10 commandments, you don't do them to get God to love you. That's not why you do the 10 commandments. We already are loved. If you never do any of these commands, God still loves you. So we don't do these to get love. Okay? We do these to live the beautiful life God wants us to live. That's why we do them. We're obeying God to have this amazing God life. Make sense? Because we always think, we've talked about this before, it's easy, especially when you're young, and you hear the 10 Commandments or you read the Bible, it's very easy to think God is squashing our fun. Do you know squashing? Squish it down. So if you take, I'm trying to think, if I took this cup, sorry, just a second, and I put my hand on it and I went boom and squished it flat, that's squashing it. Imagine, this is our fun, and God's rules, he just wants to do this. He just wants to squeeze the cup down and make us suffer. That's what we think, but that's so not true. Make sense? And we struggle to believe God wants the best for us. So he said, if Jay's son is playing with knives, you know knives? And Jay says, stop! You're not playing with those knives. His son would start crying. Like, Dad, why aren't you letting me have fun? And that's natural. They would cry that Dad is ruining fun. Is Jay ruining his fun? No, he's not. He is protecting his son. Don't play with knives. I don't want you getting hurt. I don't want you hurting other people, so let's not play with knives. But we think God just is being mean. And so the big question that they asked today is, who is your God? And he asked it another way. What functions as your God? What operates as your God? And he said, this was the main sentence today. You become what you worship. Whatever you make number one in your life, you will become like that. I'll give you a silly example. If all I do is work out and run, I'm all about health, I'm going to get very muscular and fit, and I just will, because that's where I'm putting my time. If I put my time into eating food because I love food and I put all my energy into eating, I'm gonna get fat. Because that's where my time and energy is going. That's your God. So whatever you put your time and energy into is what you will become like. Make sense? And that's where you get your identity, who you think you are. And I know I told you guys this before, but I do like to run. And I like to run marathons and stuff. But a few years ago, running was so important to me, and I didn't know that I was sad inside. I ran all the time. And if my kids had an event, but it was a running day, I didn't go. Running came before everything. And in the summer that year, I said to Ted, my husband, I said, God is going to ask me to stop running. And Ted said, why? You enjoy it. I said, I just know it. I know he's going to do it. And a few months later, I got an injury, and I couldn't run or anything for 6 months. And it was devastating. It was totally devastating. I discovered I was depressed and had to work through stuff. But to me, my identity was a runner. Every time I did a marathon, I bought the sticker, like the 26.2 sticker, and I stuck it on my van every time I did it. And I didn't realize how important I made this to me. It's crazy. I can't even understand it now. So whatever you put your time and energy into is what you'll become. Make sense? And this was very important. I want to read this verse. Hang on. Psalm 135. I'm just going to steal my Bible here. He read it was shocking to me today. So I'm going to read it and make sure you guys understand it. 15 to 18. Okay, idols is another word for gods, okay? The idols of the nations are silver and gold. They're metal. They are made by the hands of men. People are making them. They have mouths, but they cannot speak. They have eyes, but they cannot see. They have ears, but they cannot hear. Nor is there any breath. There's no life in them. Those who make them will be like them, and so will all who trust in them. So here it says, if this is your God, this weird piece of metal that does nothing, you will become like that. You won't say anything of value. You won't see anything of value, hear anything of value. You won't breathe and live the life of God. You'll be dead like this thing, right? And then he read 2 Corinthians 3:18. And we, who with our unveiled faces, like no covering, our faces are clear, we reflect. Do you know reflect? Yeah? You know reflect? We reflect the Lord's glory and are being changed into what he looks like with ever increasing glory, which comes from the Lord who is the Spirit. And I used to think the image of God meant how you looked. But the image of God is everything that comes out of you. And God is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control. I think I got them all. If we spend time with God, we will grow with our love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. That's what we'll become if we spend time with God. That's the image of God. Make sense? We're good? So, and then he pointed out that as humans, we all worship something. Something is number one in your life. What is it? And he says, whatever is number one, can you think of what is the biggest thing that gives you meaning? What is the biggest thing that makes you feel important or special? What is it? I'll give you a second. Just think about it. What makes you feel the best about yourself? Whatever that is competing for your attention instead of God. And okay, I'll confess one more thing. I will confess that working out is a big thing to me. When I was 18, I went to Bible school in Germany and I gained 50 pounds. And when I came home, it was a little shocking to my family. And I had to lose this weight. And it was very hard for me. And now, because of the way I thought people looked at me then, I'm very scared to be that again. Even when I had to stop running, I had to stop this day. The very next day, literally the next day, I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh my gosh, I put on weight. It was less than 24 hours. I did not put on weight. But that's how obsessed I was with it. Does that make sense? That is something I have to struggle with, to remember that's not important. Who cares? When I'm dead, at my funeral, you are not going to say, remember how fit she was? Remember how her pant size? Nobody cares about that. But for some reason, I put it up here sometimes. What do you put up here? And then he read an author's quote. This author is not a Christian, but he gave a speech at somebody's graduation, I think. And that was very powerful to me. So I'm gonna pull up my pictures and I took pictures of it to try and explain it because, oh gosh, one is blurry, but let's see what we get. And the day-to-day transfer. He said, nowadays, do you guys know atheism?
Atheist.
Yeah.
People don't believe in God.
Yep.
Is it atheist?
No God.
Okay.
So you don't believe in God. If you are, you call yourself an atheist. No God. Okay? The first part of his quote was, and he's not a Christian. This doesn't exist actually. There are no atheists. Because everybody has some kind of God. Maybe it's not God in heaven, but something is God in your life. So there are no atheists. Make sense so far? And then he says, everybody worships something. The only question is what? What is it? So then, oh, there we go. Let's see if we get that clear. He said, if you worship money or things, if that is where you think meaning is, then you will never have enough. Because you're always chasing money and things. And there's always something new. There's always more money. There's always something better. So you will never have enough. You will never feel like you are enough. It can't finish. It's always growing and wanting more. If you worship your body and beauty and sexual allure, like attractiveness, if I am alluring, I draw you towards me. You want to come to me. You want to look at me or something. Yeah?
Could you?
Yeah.
Please.
Yes, yes, yes. And this isn't a bad thing. This isn't a negative thing. But if you find something alluring, it's attractive. It gets your attention. Make sense? So you want what were the three things? You want a good body, you want to be good looking, and you want other people to think so too. Okay? He says if that's what you chase, you will always feel ugly. And when time and age start showing, you will die a million deaths before they finally grieve you. This is so true. I have been insecure my whole life. I have thought myself to be ugly. I still do today. And now I started seeing gray hairs. And then started seeing wrinkles. And my skin is a little loose. And I actually said to Ted a few weeks ago, I said, I feel bad for you because I'm changing and I can't stop it. You will feel ugly and you will die a million deaths. You don't have control over this. So you're investing in something that's gonna change, whether you like it or not. Then, if you worship power, if you want power to be the boss, to be respected, to have people look up to you, you will struggle with feeling weak or afraid because there's always somebody who doesn't look up to you. There's always somebody who doesn't obey you. And then you feel like, why can't I get them to listen to me? Why won't they obey? I want this power. So you will feel weak and afraid, and you will keep needing more power, more and more and more, so that you don't feel afraid that you don't have power. By having power is the only way you're not afraid. But you can't have power over everybody. Make sense? Worship intellect, worship being smart, being seen as smart. You will end up feeling stupid or like a fraud. Do you know fraud? I'll explain in a second. On the verge of being found out. We have something called, I don't know if you guys would have heard of this, but hang on. Imposter syndrome. Have you heard of this? An imposter, what was that stupid game that kids play on video games? Because you would probably know it, but there's a suspect. An imposter is someone who pretends to be something they're not. So if today was a meeting of all of the chefs, do you guys know chefs, people who cook, in Niagara, and I walk in there with my chef hat on and I sit down and I act like this is where I'm supposed, this is part of my meeting, yep. I'm an imposter. I'm not a chef. I don't know anything about a chef. I'm gonna get caught. So if you have imposter syndrome, you feel like a fake, not real. I had this, I massaged for 20 something years. I always had imposter syndrome with massaging. People, I was successful, so I had a full business. I was always worried about being found out. That they would realize, oh, Nancy doesn't know as much as she pretends to know. You know, she gives me this advice. She says, this is what your problem is, blah, blah, blah. But I felt like I was acting, or people would think I was acting, and soon they would know I don't know what I'm talking about. I feel it teaching ESL. There's not a ton of training for ESL. So what if people find out that I don't know as much as they think I do? So that is imposter syndrome. So if you're always chasing to be smart, you're never as smart as you want. There's always more to learn. So then you feel like you're not real. Like people are going to find out you're kind of dumb because you don't know about something. Make sense? So this is chasing things that you can never catch. Never. And you're on a treadmill. You know treadmill? Treadmill is a machine, and you turn it on and you run. And the belt's going underneath you. And there's money. But I'm never getting anywhere because I'm on a treadmill. There's beauty, I'm not getting it. There's intellect, I'm not getting it. You're always on a treadmill. Nobody likes running on a treadmill. Every runner says treadmills suck. They want to be outside because you feel like you're getting somewhere. You want to follow God because then you feel like you're getting somewhere. And there is somewhere. There is an end. Heaven. So we don't want to be on the treadmill in the gym. Hit the road, you know? Do real running. Put on real miles. No offense to anybody who runs on the treadmill. I run on the treadmill sometimes, but hold on. Okay, this is the last part of that quote. All of that worship, like money, beauty, intellect, power, we start worshiping it very subtly. Do you know subtle? Subtle. Let me just write this down. You don't say the B. This is not.
Oh. Yeah, I confuse the pronunciation. Marisa and it's like what?
Yeah, or you could say subtly. So very, you almost don't know it's happening. Make sense?
Yeah.
You can have a hill that just shoots right up, or you can have a real subtle hill that you don't even know you're going uphill, but it's going uphill. You start worshiping money, beauty, power so slow you don't even know you're doing it, right? You don't even realize, wow, I'm putting a lot more time into working out than I am reading the Bible. But you don't see it. Did you ever hear about the frog in cold water? If you put a frog in cold water, it'll stay because it likes the cold water. And then you put it on the stove and you turn on the stove. And the water slowly heats up and eventually the frog dies because it didn't realize how hot the water was getting. That's what it's like with our idols. We're in a pot of cold water and we're getting warmer and warmer and warmer, and we don't even know that we're so far from God. Make sense? Was that clear? Is that good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you day after day, getting more and more swept away. Okay. So now, and this man who said all this, he was very smart, right? That's a good quote. Very powerful. He killed himself 3 years later. He got into addiction, then he got depressed, then he killed himself. So what Jay said was self-awareness, understanding that doesn't help you. You need to do something about what you know. So if you know that's a slippery slope into trouble, you've got to start going the other way. You have to act on it. Make sense? So, and so he said, be careful what you listen to, what you sing in the car, he said, which that really hit me. What you watch, both on TV and social media, and what you read. What are you putting in? It's so subtle, especially social media. The videos are so short. It doesn't feel like it's going in, but it's going in. And other things you never know if you reach down to go. Okay. He says, obey this first commandment because this is protection of the truth that any other gods will destroy you. God knows chasing money is empty. He knows chasing beauty is pointless. He knows chasing intellect. Who cares how smart you are? Doesn't matter when you get to heaven. And so he's saying, do this. Because I know the other gods aren't good enough. This is protecting us from wasting our time chasing things that he knows aren't going to do it. Make sense? So this is saying, trust me. I know better. I'll tell you what, as a parent, I tell my kids things, and I'm like, trust me, I did it. Don't do it. We still go do it. It's like, come on. And I think that's how God feels. I told you that's not going to work. So do this. This is the best. And he said, humans are made in the image of God. So we are the image of God. If we put something above God, we actually lower ourselves. We lowered God, but we are in the image of God, so we got lowered too. And this thing is the most important of all. Make sense? And he said, we were made to worship. It says in Genesis, we were made to worship God and to, with love, take care of the earth. Take care of each other, take care of animals, take care of plants. That's God's, so take care of it with love. That's what we were made to do. And he said again, when you worship him, when you spend time with him, you become like him. You become like God if you spend time with him. I wondered if you caught this sentence. He said, don't take your foot off the gas. Yeah. So while you are chasing God, you've got the pedal to the metal. Have you heard that one? So you've got the pedal down to the floor. Don't take your foot off the gas and start slowing down. You keep that thing floored and you keep chasing God. Make sense? And, I felt a little lost at that point, but so we'll just skip that. He says, which this really hit me, your greatest defense, we all know defense? Where'd it go? Your greatest defense into worshiping other things is offense. Go after the Bible, go after listening to worship music, go after serving, go after praying, go after being at church, go after volunteering at youth. In order to not do this, push back and go like this. Make sense? You can't just sit here. It's like a ball floating in water. It does not stay in the same spot. So either the waves are going to push it this way, or you're going to push it against the waves and go out. But a ball does not stay in the same location in water. Make sense? And so he asked, do you guys know the word pursuit? Pursuit, because he used that word actually. Chase.
Is the same?
Kind of. So you'll hear sometimes that the police were in a high chase pursuit. They were going after something or someone. O.J. Simpson died this week. Do we remember the white Bronco? You remember when he was chased? I didn't know. He tried to escape, and it's famous. He got into a white Bronco to escape, and all the police were behind him, and they eventually caught him. So to pursue is to chase something, good or bad. It can be a good or a bad thing. How is your pursuit going of Jesus? How are you chasing God? How are you chasing him? Is that going well in your life right now? Or are you a little slow? Have you taken your foot off the gas? Did you get out of the car? How is your pursuit of Jesus? How's your love? Is your loyalty divided? Do you guys understand loyalty? Yeah? What you're faithful to, what you're committed to. So he gave a good example, like on Sunday morning, do you sleep in? Or do you get up and go to church? Do you read your Bible in the morning, or do you do 2 workouts instead of 1? Do you choose to work overtime instead of coming home and being with your family and making sure they're loved? You're making these choices. Where's your loyalty? Are you choosing to do the God things, or are you choosing to do the other things? Make sense? With loyalty? Which one was your loyalty? Even he gave an example of education or sports for the kids. It's a tough decision. Do you sign your kids up for all kinds of sports? Or do you sign them up for competitive sports where it's a big commitment? And now your kid can't go to youth. Now your kid can't come to church on Sunday. Suddenly sports is more than the church. What are you doing with your kids? Are you making choices that put your kids in front of God? And he also says education. University is good. They all went to university. But university, if your faith is not strong, they tear apart faith. So, do you send your kid away to university knowing they don't have what it takes to stand up to this? Or do you keep them home so you keep them in front of Jesus? Does that make sense? That's a hard one. And that in sports makes people go, it's a hard choice. And so he said, what comes first in your home? Does money come first? Do hobbies come first? What do you think about the most? The world, this is the last thing, and I'll read what he said, but he gave an example. Would power, money, beauty, or smarts, would that make the world a better place? If Putin had more money, would he be a better guy? Or if he was smarter, would he be a nicer guy? No. Those things don't make the world a better place. If Putin had Jesus, would he make better choices? Yep, he would. And that's the same with us and what the world needs. So he said, chase God. Make God the middle, the center. No other gods. Love him with everything. And he said, like when Toby played guitar, God wants our life to be beautiful, like that music. He wants it to be a masterpiece that people want to listen to. And that's what you chase today. Make sense? Any questions? I want to read what Nathan read at the end of the service, but before that, any questions? Yes?
Here one.
Yes!
I heard that the word relentless.
Relentless.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
If something is relentless, never quits.
Okay, so kind of slow.
It's like unstoppable.
Unstoppable. So as a joke, my one daughter Blake used to ask a million questions. And if you said no, she asked you a million times more. And it was like, oh my gosh, she's relentless. She doesn't take no, she just keeps asking. And we say to her now, we say, Blake, we hope you have a girl just like you who asks a million questions. So she never quit. God's love never quits. I don't know, there's a song that we sing called Oh, the Overwhelming Never End. Oh, it's reckless. No, it's reckless. Never mind, wrong word. But he says God has a love for us that never quits. Let's have a love for God that never quits. Make sense?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Good. He read, so in the sermon, he said that there was a verse that Jewish people, I think they read it every day, or they read it every meal, something, it was constant. And so at the end, Nate went up, and, oh, I wrote it at the top, hang on. Deuteronomy 6. And so at the end, it's called a sharma. Don't quote me on that. he went and read the Sharma. So I'll read it. I'll explain if I think it's complicated. So it's Deuteronomy 6, 4 to 9. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, everything you have. Love him. These commandments that I give you today are to be upon your hearts, on your hearts, in your hearts. Impress them, push them onto your children. Talk about them when you sit at home, and when you're out walking or driving, when you walk along the road. Talk about them when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols, like people wear the cross, right? Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your forehead. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. It's everywhere. You can't walk in your house without seeing it. You can't walk out your house without seeing it. When you're in your house, you're thinking about it. When you're out of your house walking, you're thinking about it. When the children are in the room, you're talking about it. When the children aren't in the room, you're talking about it. This is to be number one. So I'll read it now once without interrupting. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them, push them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. I'm just going to pray. Is that okay? Jesus, thank you so much for today. Thank you so much for this message, for the words that you gave to Jay, for the power in that quote, for this reminder that we need to pursue you relentlessly. Please help us to understand and to know what is fighting to be God in our life. And help us to do what we can to stop it. Protect our hearts, protect our minds, God. Thank you that you are good. And everything you ask us to do is for our good. Amen.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank